Good morning. I'm Dr. Petra, and welcome to the Science of Mind class here at CSLDallas. Welcome to all of you who actually turned your clock back, sprung your clock forward and got up. And welcome to those of you who are here. I think a lot of people will be coming in late this morning. But we're happy to be together. We're happy to be continuing on in our project this morning. We are in the general summary of the Science of Mind. And we have talked about the theory of the nature of reality. Now we're talking about our place in it, our use of these laws and principles and how that works for us. So the first paragraph, the first full paragraph on page 395 really talks about the idea that spirit itself and nature as an expression of life, as an expression of the one, is actually perfect. It is run by universal laws, and the unfolding of creation is the perfect outpicturing of life as it's seeking to express itself, right? And so there is a sense that life is always moving toward life. Even with big destructive things, asteroids hitting the earth and hurricanes and tornadoes and whatever, right? These are all simply part of the earth doing what it's doing, the galaxies doing what it's doing, and out of each thing, each experience, more life evolves, more life grows. And so the idea here that is a recognition that impulse of life, of spirit to express, is automatic and it's always working. And so when we say perfect, we don't mean perfect the way that we think of perfect, like a perfect Christmas tree or, the perfect human, the look of a perfect human, but the idea that life is perfectly moving. It's impossible for spirit to ordain anything else but this perfection, since in order for it to be at all, right? Life has to be perfectly, constantly unfolding. The perfect cause must produce a perfect effect. So the normal functions of life are harmonious in that everything is continually moving forward, everything is continually rebalancing itself. Right, even that's the equilibrium that comes with, there's a fabulous recognition that without the asteroid hitting the Earth, mammals would not have ascended when they did into the primary position, and that would have actually changed the evolution of human beings. Right, so it's all perfectly unfolding, and it's harmonious. But the challenge, of course, as we can see from our own experience today with the significance of climate change, we interfere. We interfere with this harmonious, perfect outpicturing in our ignorance, and thus bring discord into temporary being. Right? We can, in fact, interfere with, redirect this unfolding in our ignorance. And this isn't book ignorance. This isn't education ignorance. This is our ignorance of the nature of reality. And it is our ignorance of the way in which the laws of the universe operate, especially the fundamental law of cause and effect, and that we're participating in that, right? That's what we're ignorant of, and how this is all working and how we're a part of it. Everything that we've talked to up until now. In the life process of automatic functioning, both of our bodies and throughout the universe as a whole, the laws of being are set and immutable, right? We don't have to stop and think about, okay, stomach, digest now. Okay, blood, the heart pumps and the blood moves, and we don't have to tell the cells what to do. there is an automatic functioning, an automatic law that is an outpicturing of this perfect expression of life growing, of life moving, of life evolving, of life expressing. So we're not responsible for that because that's automatic. In the use that we make of the law of cause and effect in our individual experience, we are responsible. We are given, or by the necessity of our nature have, the power and the necessity of using the law as though it existed solely for us. It goes in the direction in our mental affairs that we give it. It can have no other direction for us and no other, right? In our life. But of course, in the great whole of the universe is not run on the scale of our ignorance. Knowledge alone can free us from this ignorance and self-binding. So right, we're crystal clear. We are not running the universe. It is not our ignorance or thought processes that are managing the whole. We're not responsible for hurricanes. What we might be responsible for is building our houses in the place where hurricanes happen and not paying attention to how we're building them and not paying attention to how we're engaging with the hurricane when it happens. All of these things we're utterly responsible for. But we have to stop feeling like we're responsible for the universe as a whole. It is taking care of itself, thank you very much. Perfectly fine. In the growth of self-awareness, we become aware of the fact that as individuals, we actually are now contributing, co-creating, and we have to imagine the law of cause and effect as if it were working solely for us, and recognize that that's what's happening. That's what's happening in our own lives. So far as we are concerned, outside of the automatic and necessary functions of this universal mind, we are free to do as we will. And the universal mind as law can know about the individual only what we know about ourselves. Right, so we can interfere not only with the automatic action of the law in terms of our own health and well-being, but we are free to engage with that law in any way. The cosmic engine is started, but we guide our own lives. This driving is not by force, but by agreement, unification, and acquiescence. I love that. Our driving, our use of the, let me start that sentence over again. The recognition that we are free and are guiding our own lives, it is not that we're making things happen by whipping the conditions of our life into shape, but by agreement with the actual way in which everything works and agreeing with the good by unifying ourselves with the way life is moving and by acquiescing to the fact that we're responsible for our own lives and for the collective life that is the outpicturing of all of us choosing together. So the last thing on this page, the engine of the subjective mind must be guided. It is neither person, place, nor thing. It is subjective to the desire of the person. It has for us only the power he decrees it to have. And of course, that's what we talked about last week in the beginning of our Step Out in Faith program. It all begins with our desire. Our aligning with the impulse of life as it is seeking to express through us, and the way in which we are contributing to that expression through our thoughts, our beliefs, our words, our actions, all the ways in which we are personally guiding the universal law and guiding and or interfering with it. And of course, the challenge is, well, not the challenge, but what's the good news, bad news? The good news is we can be responsible for it. The bad news is we're responsible for it, right? We don't get to say, oh, the devil made me do it. Oh, I didn't know any better. Well, that's our ignorance. If we didn't know any better, we are going to use the law unconsciously in ways that are harmful or continue to interfere or continue to stand in the way of our good. Right? There's nothing there's no power or force that is causing us to use our free will inappropriately or hurtfully or badly or ignorantly. There is no one to blame, including ourselves, right? Ignorance is not something to blame either. If we don't know any better, we don't know any better. But the moment that we know, the moment that we realize that this is what's going on, now we have the opportunity to take responsibility in a good way, to use our understanding of the law, to use it for good in our own lives, in the lives of people that we love, in the lives of humanity as a whole. So there are a couple of big chunks here in this recognition, right? There's a certain sense that if we'll somewhat get out of the way, the automatic action of the law will automatically create a life that is for life. Good. That's great. But that's the sort of lowest common denominator. That's sort of the basic, right? You're going to survive. If we get out of the way, if we don't do harmful things to ourselves and the people around us, if we don't have a whole bunch of negative and harmful thinking, our life will unfold as life. We'll survive. But will we thrive? Will we flourish? Will we express that which is ours to express, ours to give and to do? Will we move beyond just the generic sense of surviving, which is what a tree does and a bird does and a flower does, right? They're surviving, they're growing and reproducing themselves so that there's another tree and a bird and a flower. But for us, as recognizing our co-creation, right, that's where our desire comes in to move life forward, to express more, to contribute, to make a difference. And when we use our free will to engage in that, now we are co-creating. Now we are using the law to bring something forward in addition to simply the automatic maintenance of life's ongoing evolution. I hope I said that in a way that makes sense, because this is really, really, really important, right? I find a lot of spiritual people say, well, I'm just going to sit back and let spirit, right, move through us. Which is great. You are in alignment with the automatic, harmonious life, and it's going to be, it's going to be fine. But are we contributing that which is the unique individual essence that we are? That's where our desire and our intention and our co-creation comes in. Where we're actually moving beyond just the law of cause and effect, just the what should we say? I can't remember now whether it's William Blake or Keats, who in one of the poems talks about the idea that all nature is interested in is the survival of the species, right? As long as enough young ones can grow, the species survives. That's all that nature cares about. Nature does not care about any one particular fish or bird or tree. As long as the species is surviving and nature is flourishing, that's all it cares about. That's what self-awareness adds. Self-awareness adds the value of the individual and the value of the individual's contribution. Now we care about each and every one, each and every individual, and we contribute to actually making that work. That's the additional piece that, as people of free will and as places where the universe is individualizing, do you see? That's the whole point. We're no longer just running on, well, as long as enough people survive to carry on the race, that's all we really care about, right? We've long passed that. And that's the unique contribution that self-awareness makes to this automatic action of the law. And it's so critical that we take responsibility for that. We take our place in that, because we're either doing that or we're just sort of drifting along with this automatic action, or quite frankly, we're interfering and we're making a mess, which we are certainly able to see in many places, from war to inequity to climate issues, right? We're seeing the mess that we're making when we're not paying attention to the use we're making of the co-creative process, the law of cause and effect. So that's what we want to talk about today. Let's talk about free will. Let's talk about what does it mean to take responsibility, free will and responsibility for this. These are two really significant thoughts that we have to bend our mind around and find a way to embrace and to actively engage with. So we're going to stop here and pose the questions. What do you think about free will? And what do you think about this idea that we're responsible? And how do you take that up? So Ryan, I'm going to turn to you. We're going to say good morning to everybody who is out there, and those of you who are here in the room. And so good morning, Ryan.
Well, good morning, Petra, and hello to everybody here in the room with us. And those who are joining us via Zoom and on Facebook Live, good morning to all of you. And this is an interactive discussion, so we encourage participation. And what we'll do is we'll poll the room, and for anybody who has a question or comment in here, just raise your hand like you just don't care. Can I see everybody raise their hand? Give me a wave. All right, and the same goes for those who are on Zoom. All you have to do is hit the raise your hand icon on the Zoom down below. I see some people already beating me to
practicing.
The punch. You guys have been watching. All right, I see you all on
we'll
there
wave
raising
back.
your hand. And for those who are watching us here on Facebook, let's hear your thoughts and your questions inside of the chat. And just for starters, why don't you tell us where you're watching us from today so we can all get to know each other.
Yeah, it's always fun.
And I'll be bringing your questions and your comments inside of the room here, and just know that I do keep those anonymous so that way we can have a safe container of spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. So what is freedom?
Yeah, well,
what
free will.
Freedom? I'm going to poll the room here first. Does anybody have a question or comment?
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
back here.
and the iconic Richard is making his way over. And just please announce your name so we can hear you online.
Good morning. This is Julia.
Hi, Julia.
And listening to this morning's class, it really just kind of puts it all together to understand. But to me, it's also like a ha-ha, because it's like the more I learn and dig my feet and root it into the science of mind, understanding teachings, using the tools, and really being very mindful and focused about what I'm doing and why. And I mean, it's also learning from your past mistakes, well, not mistakes, but experiences, because you really, when I think back, I didn't know anything about science of mind, so, it was just another day.
Yes.
But now that I'm more focused and mindful of what I'm doing, I'm finding that no matter what I'm doing, no matter where I'm at, if I'm thinking the wrong thing, they let me know. I'm sorry. The universe lets me know.
Well, sure, because that's what gets reflected back, right?
Exactly. It's like, okay, now I know I did the wrong thing. So I correct it, but I'm also correcting some of the past stuff as it comes up.
Yes.
And also being in the study class for the next couple of weeks until April is really helping even more as it comes, I'm bringing it together, but I'm also taking it apart.
Yes.
The reflection and my study group, and it's just been awesome.
Beautiful.
And so understanding this process has become really an everyday thing for me. So I want to thank you.
that.
And that's all for me.
Yay, thanks, Julia. Thank you. And you say some really important things, right? Because one of the things we're ignorant of is the way that the old patterns are continuing to play out. And so to take responsibility for that is really powerful. And so can we take responsibility for mistakes that we've made in the past, or ways in which we've thought about things that then actually played out? Can we take responsibility without blame or fault, without blame or shame, right? And that can be a very, very powerful spiritual practice, is to uncouple responsibility from blame and shame. If we would have known differently, and if we would have seen things differently, we would have done them differently. But at the moment, that's all we knew. That's what we knew. And so that's what we did. And the outcome was what it was. When we can look at that and see that and unravel the consciousness behind it, do you see we can take responsibility for having a new awareness, setting a new consciousness, and therefore a new cause in motion, taking responsibility without blaming ourselves or feeling shame or blaming somebody else. So it's just a really interesting example of this, right? We have 16 people in Africa right now on spirit tours with Reverend Karen. They've been to South Africa for 3 days. They were just 4 days in Kruger National Park, and they were on their way to Victoria Falls. Except that yesterday, or this morning, it's hard to tell based on the time change, sometime in the last 24 hours, British Airways, upon whom they are flying, British Airways grounded all of their planes in Africa.
Oh, no.
All of them. Every one of them. And stranded everybody wherever they were, right? And so here they are trying to get to the next place they're supposed to go, Victoria Falls. And of course, every British Airways flight is grounded. So that means that there are how many thousands of people in every airport, everywhere in the country trying to get, or in the continent, trying to get wherever it is they're trying to go. And so I followed Karen's texts as she was updating me throughout the night about what was going on. And of course, everybody did the best they could to ground into the spiritual principles and tools, right? And the affirmation is, whatever is needed, we get where we go. Whatever is needed, we get where we go. We're going. We're going to find a way through. Nobody's going to be left behind, right? So they found like 9 spots on one plane, which meant there was not spaces for 3 people. And all kinds of, right, treatment and all kinds of intention, nobody went off, it's never going to work, oh my God, this is terrible, right? Because that's where we can go. This is never going to work. Right? Sets us down one road. But another road, when we say, this is going to work out, I don't know how it's going to work out, and sure enough, bunch of them got on, it was actually a 2 flight, instead of the 1 flight they were supposed to take to Victoria Falls, they ended up on 2 flights. Some of them flew into a different country and then got a private car and drove to Victoria Falls an hour, and the last 2 people, I think, were arriving 30 minutes after I left the house this morning. And every single person, and 2 people had actually said, it's fine. If we can't get on the plane, we'll just, maybe fly over to London and take a few days and head home. And sure enough, everybody was like, no, this is going to work. 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 And in the midst of tens of thousands of people all over the area trying to get on planes, they actually got 12 people, not just one person or two, 12 people as a group from where they were to where they were going, right? And all of that has to do with how we engage with the automatic action of the law. Do we immediately go to, this is not going to work out, oh my God, this is horrible? Or do we go to, I'm standing in the truth? You see, that's the part that I have to be responsible for. Where do I go in the moment? Because that's my free will, and that's what is directing the law. So it's been quite, well, I'm sure we'll hear lots of stories, but it's been quite the adventure of using the universal law of cause and effect in a very directed manner. All right, so we're going to stop there again. Ryan, let's see if we have some comments out in Zoom or Facebook.
Out
in internet land.
In the metaverse, verse. No, I'm just kidding. We're not there yet, but we will be. So anybody here on Zoom, would you like to go ahead and share your questions or comments? If so, please raise your hand now, or we will move on. Looks like we're moving on.
All right. Well, so it's good. So this idea of free will is really something powerful. In the science of mind, we really understand that we are radically free. This means you are free to mess up your life. Really, you are. There's nobody out there saying, oh, you're a bad girl or a bad boy. You will, in fact, experience the consequences of deciding that you don't care to take care of yourself, or you don't care whether your actions are hurtful to others, right? You will absolutely experience the consequences, the effect of that cause. But this is why we understand that there's no reward and punishment. There's nobody out there deciding whether you are good or not. It is simply the feedback of the universe feeding back to us, this is what you're putting out, and so this is what you're getting back. That's the law of cause and effect. And our job is to pay attention to that and to participate in that in some conscious manner. And so here's the deal, right? Free will really does mean that. So that also means that there is no plan for your life. Sorry to say, there is no plan. You weren't.
Wait, what?
There is nothing that you are supposed to do. Really, there's nothing that you're supposed to do. This is radically free. Radical free will. There's nothing you're supposed to do. And when we say, well, I'm supposed to be here, or Spirit wanted me here, actually what we're saying is that we're following some inner guidance, some inner sense that this is what's next for us. But it is our attention to that which makes the difference. And it is our tapping into the desire of life as us and the ways in which it shows up. Now, for those of you who haven't been here for the last 4.5 years, which is, I think, when we started back on page, let's see, it's not quite page 1, page 25, the first page of the introductory chapter, The Thing Itself. To suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create a human being in bondage and leave us bound would be to dishonor the creative power which we call God or spirit or life. To suppose that God would make us as an individual without leaving us to discover ourselves would be to suppose an impossibility. Individuality must be spontaneous. It can never be automatic. The seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of each human, but like the prodigal son, we must make the great discovery for ourselves. We see abundance in the universe. We cannot count the grains of sand on a single beach. The earth contains untold riches, and the very air is vibrant with power. Why then are we weak, poor, and afraid? The science of mind deals with these questions. The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. Period. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. So the divine plan is not for you to be an accountant or to be somebody who travels or to die early or to... The divine plan is our freedom because we have awakened to the self-consciousness of the use of these laws and the understanding of the nature of reality. But we have to discover it, and then we have to actually start taking responsibility for using it. There's a dynamic a dynamic dance between using the law, setting the law in motion, and then trusting how it is unfolding. Right? And so when we say, I'm supposed to be here, or I'm supposed to be doing this thing, we can say that if we have already set the law in motion, and we're now listening to the nudge, we're seeing the opening, we're following the trail, that impulse has opened up for us. Right? And so the law, once it's set into motion, we can also just as easily say, oh, no, that's not my answer. No, I'm not going to do that. Do you see? Now we're interfering again with this thing we've set into motion, but we don't like how it's unfolding, and so we shut it down. So there's this dynamic dance between being directive with the desire, speaking the word, setting the cause in motion, and then allowing the process to unfold. That's where we are seeking to be in harmony with the automatic action of the law. Do you see? So those of you who are in the Step Out in Faith home study groups, this is going to be a topic here in the next, I think it's actually next week. This is the topic for the co-creative process. So you're going to dive much deeper into it if you're in a home study group, and we'll be talking about it in our celebration next Sunday. But this is where I think sometimes we get confused. And what I watch people do is the exact opposite. They say, what I watch people do is, well, I can't really decide what I want. I'm not really sure what kind of life I want to. I'm just gonna let Spirit lay it on me, and then I'm gonna figure out how to make that happen. Do you see? That's exactly the opposite of what we actually are to do. What we are to do is to feel the desire of our life, to feel the thing that wants to unfold, to feel that impulse to move in that direction, speak our word around that, whether it's I'm going to create a business for the next 40 years of my life, or whether it's I'm going to make this plane. And then it is there that we release it and we go with the harmonious flow, the automatic action of the law to bring us to the outcome. Do you see how different that is? And too many of us have that reversed. So I really want you to stop and think about that. Do you have a tendency to say, well, I'm just going to see what Spirit has in mind, and then do you clamp down, try to make it happen? Oh, I got to figure this out. What is step by step? And right? Do you see? Think about, really start watching and paying attention to how we are engaging with the law with the law of cause and effect. And this is when we read in the Science of Mind about our ignorance, this is what it means. We are ignorant of the law, not like we're stupid, not like we're dumb, not like we're uneducated, not like any of those things. It just means that we're ignorant about how the law works and how we're using it. And so we want to become aware of it. We want to wake up to it. We want to become conscious of that this is what's happening and this is how we are using or interfering with the universal law of cause and effect. I can keep talking, but you guys can talk too. I have a lot to say about this, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
So with that being said, I do have a couple of comments that came through that I'd like to read. One, first of all, my mom would disagree with you, Petra, because the purpose of me being here is to be the starlight of her eye, okay? She's told me many a times. So listen to your mother, everybody.
That's right.
So one of the comments that came in, it says, I've noticed that I often only get as far as the first step of stating there is only one. When an answer is revealed, or I see, somebody commented right as I was reading that. Hold on, y'all. Let me get through this. Okay. So it says, stating that there is only one when an answer is revealed or I see a demonstration. I love it when this happens.
Yes, it's really beautiful because what that means is a consciousness. You've already created the consciousness of working within the nature of reality and using of the law. And the more that we do that, the more quickly and the more effortlessly these things happen. Good for you. Go ahead.
All right, y'all, you ready for this mind-bending question?
Go.
What about competing free will of two different people?
Oh, yeah, it's always the issue, right? This is always the issue. And especially when we're in personal relationship or when we are in any place, work, all kinds of places. And of course, even in war, we see the competing outpicturing of people's free will to make good decisions, poor decisions, to make decisions that impact others. And this is the constant tension between the understanding that we run our own lives, we don't run the universe. And that the more people that we have involved, the more those things do actually impact each other, which should show us the impact that we have on other people. Right? It should really illuminate that. And not only that, but to show us the impact that we have on collective consciousness. And so again, the question is, are we taking responsibility? We can't take responsibility for another person's use of their free will. What we can do and must do is take responsibility for our own use of free will and our own use of the law. This does not mean that we have to accept everybody's behavior. Part of the use of our free will is also to say no. No, that's unacceptable. No, you can't do that in my presence. No, we're not going to behave that way because I believe that's out of alignment and out of integrity with being a spiritual being. Recognizing that I'm responsible for my own free will and my use of the law, and I'm not responsible for yours, does not mean that I simply accept or allow every behavior. And then we get to also make lots of decisions about the kinds of people that we want to spend time with based on the use of their free will. I remember years and years and years and years ago, I remember having to say to my partner at the time, I know this person is your best friend and has been for a long time, but this person drinks so much that every time we're together, it turns into something that I am really uncomfortable with. It's way too much like my dad, way, way, way too much like what I grew up with. So I can't change that person. I have no desire to change the fact that that person is your best friend. What I can do with my free will is to say, rather than getting me, or how can you be friends, or how can you do this to me, right? Rather than doing any of those things, I can say, I can be with you, with this person, for an hour and a half. We can go to dinner, we can have that person over, I can go to their house for an hour and a half, and then you can stay, and I will simply take myself home. No shame, no blame. I am choosing with my free will what works for me, but I don't need to change anything about what works for you and what works for your friend. Do you see? That's my taking responsibility for my free will, recognizing that somebody else is perfectly there, right? They can do that, but no, here's what I'm willing to do or not do. It's just had a really extraordinary conversation with Reverend Barbara Leger, who's been working in the Ukraine now for 25 years. You're going to be hearing some ways in which we can support the CSL people in Ukraine through her work. We're going to be putting out some ways we can donate to them. I mean, they're fleeing the country. And some of them, her board president and his wife, they live in Kyiv, and they're not leaving. And they're both people of peace. They're both spiritual people. And they've bought guns. And they're not leaving their house. This is their home. And their answer to their free will is no, you don't get to come here and take it from us. And that's a powerful decision, right? And so that's what it means to have free will and to decide to choose from that deepest place. There but for the grace of God go we. Brian, did you have something you wanted to add? I saw your hand.
Actually, I did, but now I don't.
Okay.
So I will, but now I won't.
So I do want to let you know that over the next few days, we will be putting out some ways in which you can contribute to the work that they're doing in Ukraine. Their work is entirely about peace. It's extraordinary. They have a whole peace curriculum that they're doing, and they're reaching thousands and thousands of kids through hundreds and hundreds of teachers in Ukraine. And now, of course, they're trying to figure out how to maintain that work in the midst of this war. And it's really astonishing. So you will be hearing it. If you are not on our text app and would like to be, because we'll be putting some of this out through our text app, please email info@CSLDallas.org. Say you would like to be on our text app and give us your name, email, and phone number. If you're part of CSL Dallas and are not currently on our text app, email info@CSLDallas.org and give us your name, email, and phone number. And we'll make sure that you get on our text app, because some of these things, this is the best way for us to get you, especially information. I said to Barbara, well, we can put it out over the next few Sundays. And she said, Petra, it'll be too late by then. And that's what our text app is for. So watch your texts. It'll come in as an 814 number or something. It will always say CSLDallas.org at the bottom of the text, so that you'll know that it's from us. All right. So make sure you get on the text app, and we'll keep you informed with all of that. Right. And here we see free will playing out, and what ignorance looks like, and how we can interfere with life. We're seeing it played out on the world stage. And every person, every government, every country, every group of people, we have to make our decisions, take responsibility for how we are using the law. And can we say no from a place of peace? Or do we say no from a place of anger or a place of you're wrong, you're bad, you're evil, you're horrible? Or do we say no? No, this is not the way spiritual people, this is not the way human beings behave towards each other. Right? That's the choice that we have. Are we moving in alignment with the way life is seeking to express as us? Or are we interfering with it? All right, so I know it's heavy, and sometimes it's heavy out there in the news. We are going to be talking about something a little bit lighter in our Sunday celebration, so do join us. But know that we're always here. We're always here in the good times and in the difficult times. We love you so much. Bye for now.